Chapter 2. In this chapter, we're going to learn about network effects and network economies, or the power of group value. And we're going to take an example of LinkedIn. So, LinkedIn is a social network, and there are many such big social networks like Facebook and Twitter. And there are many such companies that have this power of network effects or power of group value. So, by group value, what do we mean? The value of a service, LinkedIn, to each customer is enhanced as the new customer joins the network. So, for example, LinkedIn started off with being a profile, right? Like a public profile, professional profile of record, right? And so now the value is that you could be a job seeker, right? And then now, if we have recruiters joining, then now you can connect these two and build a marketplace for recruiters and job seekers. Similarly, as more recruiters join, there is more benefit to job seekers because then they can get hired quicker and faster. Similarly, when more job seekers join, the recruiters benefit now because they have a huge pool of people that they can hire. So that is the network effect or network economies. Like the value of the service or platform LinkedIn is increasing as more and more people join the network. So we took an example of recruiters and job seekers, but the key thing to remember is that for each of these network effect companies, the two big important things is growth at an early stage, because at some point you can only see network effects when you have a critical mass of growth. So each of these companies would have huge growth tactics or growth hacks that they have put in place, especially when they were small, to get too big, and then the power of network effect comes in. And they did that primarily by having also engagement and value added to the customers. So I think 2011 is when LinkedIn IPO'd, and right after, BranchOut was trying to build an application on Facebook, leveraging a much bigger audience of users on Facebook by building BranchOut as an application on it. And they quickly, in I think 1 or 2 years, they got to 13 million monthly actives, and they were trying to attack LinkedIn in a pretty big way, right? So the growth tactic clearly paid off. They used the wall on Facebook. They had acquisition through Facebook users. But again, LinkedIn had a moat. And also, there's a lot of execution areas from what I read that didn't really work out at certain stage of BranchOut. And Facebook also pulled the wall certain features, that they were heavily dependent on. And so they were, after 1 or 2 years, it actually went down. And I think in 2012, I think it was ended, right? So BranchOut tried in a pretty big way to attack LinkedIn. I think Facebook, also has actively been looking at workplace, right, to attack LinkedIn. But it's difficult, right? Especially when you have boundaries in your life that people want to mimic, right? Even in their professional life. So users wanted to keep their professional life separate than their personal lives, and that's where there is these important concept of boundaries when it comes to network effects. Each of these networks have boundaries which define more or less the business in which you can expand into. You can certainly expand that boundaries. Like for example, Facebook, started off with connecting people, and then they added platform, and so now developers started building on it, right? And then they added multiple marketplaces on top, right? So the value they're expanding their values, similar to LinkedIn, right? LinkedIn also connected with the professional identity. Then they went into job seeking, job posting, recruitment, ads, and there's so many business lines that started, right? And so, but there are clear boundaries. And I believe for these two companies, for them to attack LinkedIn, the big key issue was that users wanted to maintain a separate work life and a professional life. And there are three main characteristics of companies who have network effects, right? They typically are early in the market, and they usually are the winners in such a way that they take the entire market share, right? Like LinkedIn is the professional network. There's no other professional network that is as bigger. Facebook is the social network for personal relationship with people, right? And so each of these have growth tactics at the early stages for many years where they have to build critical mass. Someone like Facebook would have attacked it with using Harvard Dictionary, right? Like all the people with LinkedIn, with maybe emails, right, and users and import with address book and whole host of things that LinkedIn did to gain up that market share, and then having engagement areas where the users had limited but also exponential value that they got in those boundaries of their professional engagement. So engagement play, growth play are the key areas, and also the product that really works. It's a simple product that just works, right? And it's early in the market, right? Like you're not late into the game because of network effects. Once critical mass is built, it's very hard. Think about Airbnb, right? It's the same thing. WhatsApp, right? Once you have a critical mass of users, like let's say Airbnb, there is hosts and there are customers who are trying to stay at that location. The more number of hosts you have, more business comes in. More hosts are there, then more opportunities to connect. So there is a win-win as more and more people come in. And typically, these after a certain critical point, it's a winner-take-all market, especially in the boundaries where the value is added. If the product, again, is a decisive, clear, simple product. Think about Zoom. It's a huge, huge acceleration in growth. Very simple, decisive product, clear boundaries of engagement, solid value proposition, and you see the whole world, using Zoom, including enterprise users. So network effects has a huge component. And the other examples that I have here is, let's say, operating system. How hard would it be to add from there's iOS, there's Android, you can think of the third one. It's going to be very hard. The demand side network effects would be pretty incumbent. For the incumbent, it would be very hard, right? For the challenger, it would be very hard to challenge, let's say, Apple for iOS app stores, right? Because no one in the new operating system would have enough critical mass of apps. The users would not have enough. Let's say Nokia wants to do this, right? It's going to be very hard for them to challenge. And so once you have these critical mass of effects in your company for, let's say, operating system, then that is very hard to challenge. But at the same time, it's also very hard to it's also very easy to grow that. Same for social networks. We talked about Facebook. Twitter is a very interesting example. It did grow, but monetization is a different aspect that is struggling in a significant way. So again, the boundaries could be clear. You can get significant critical mass, but having the right monetization or the business plan around monetization is equally important to sustain. ETFs, right? The more users come in, the value of transaction costs, the value of commissions actually goes down significantly. So more people join ETFs, the more it is actually getting towards very low basis points of fees and commissions, right? So these are all examples of network effects, network effect companies. We talked about various simple examples on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn as was a primary one, right? And we looked at the three key characteristics: growth hacking, engagement, clear boundaries. Winner typically takes it all, and there's a clear, simple, decisive product that just works and adds a lot of value. And when you have that, then you can have a big moat like LinkedIn has created, like Facebook has created, like Airbnb has created for network economies. Right? So hope that was useful. I learned quite a bit around how there is an importance of critical mass, there's an importance of scaling, growth hacking, but at the same time expanding the services, right? Like you connect people and then you could have a marketplaces built on top. And when you keep doing that, your company, the value add keeps growing, and the companies just become stronger and stronger. It becomes more and more difficult for other companies to bear that moat. Right? I'll see you in the next chapter.